All right. What's up, y'all? My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In The Image Clothing Company. We'll talk about what we are. I'll do it as I do, right? We've got 4 sides to In The Image Clothing Company, and I'll talk about a little bit of each of the fourths. We'll talk about where clothing sits, and then we'll get into this discussion. The discussion is on the importance of even sternocleidomastoid insertions. Now, before I do what I just said about the intro, I'll give a little bit of a preface, an introduction on what the sternocleidomastoid muscle is and what I mean by insertions, okay? And then we'll move forth. But yeah, today is the 15th of August, 2025, and this is our main side, okay? And I'll talk a little bit more about it, but welcome. Okay, here we go. So the sternocleidomastoid muscle, it's a muscle that is this. It inserts, meaning one end of the muscle where it connects to a bone is up here, right behind the ear on the skull, okay? And the other end of it where it inserts, watch, you can follow the muscle because you can see it, is right down here. We have our sternum and we have our collarbone, and that's where the name comes from, sternocleido, because really the collarbone is called the clavicle. That's like its technical name. And then the mastoid is the part of the head right here, okay, where it inserts at the top. And these are actually the insertions I'm talking about, is up here at the skull, okay? So it comes down and it splits off. It inserts to the collarbone and it also inserts to the sternum, very, very, very close to each other right here. And you can see, right, this is my collarbone and this is the sternum, okay? The bone right between the ribs. And there you go, okay? One over here on the right side, sternocleidomastoid muscle, and one over here on the left side, sternocleidomastoid muscle, okay? So the even insertions that I mean, yeah, up here, behind the ears. And in modern day, there is so much affecting that never could have possibly in the past, okay? And that's a lot of what I say, if you know, in the Image Clothing Company. A big thing that makes us even able, or allows us to even be able to have a clothing company where we allow the human body to work, that's our slogan, that's our main phrase for the main side of In The Image Clothing Company, is just the time period that we're in. Because in the past, you wouldn't have to be as intentional to just allow your body to work, because God designed the body to work, and there's only one way it ever could, okay? But in modern day, we have so many man-made things, and things have changed so much. A lot of things are affecting our bodies and our lives in ways that they just never could have before. So we'll get into it, okay? But yeah, the main side of In The Image Clothing Company here, that's what we do. We allow the human body to work through clothing because it's the only thing placed physically on us. The human body has a center line, and it has to. There's no belief, no opinion. Some people think that there is, but there's a sternum. All the musculature on the right side of the body connects into the sternum at the center. All the musculature on the left side of the body connects into the sternum at the center, okay? So the sternum, the spine, the trachea, the nose, and the jaw. The things I mentioned as being in the center because they are. The jaw naturally stabilizes the entire body, and we are on Earth's gravity, okay? We have to stay centered above Earth's center of gravity, okay? Now, the spine is the same as the sternum in the sense of all the muscles on the right side of the body on the back insert to the spine. All the muscles on the left side of the body in the back insert to the spine, okay? It's in the center. So, there you go, okay? We have 2 feet that oppose the center, and they grip arches inward, keeping us vertical on Earth's gravity. Holy, choking up. Man, okay. So every joint in the body has a neutral position, okay? The wrist, neutral. Then it goes up, then it goes down, then it goes back, forth, rotates, okay? Every joint in the body is like the wrist. There's a neutral to it. And there's only one way the human body could ever work, okay? Everything just has a role to play. It all has its functions. It all has to be in its neutral positions all ways, okay? And then we can have both directions from there. Now, this is a big point, okay? Clothing placed on the body, that's how we're a clothing company. If it's imbalanced at all, the human body will be as well. How could it not be, right? It's a physical thing placed on a physical being, a mechanical machine, if you will, the human body, placed onto a rock in space, as I say. So our clothing is one of those things, man-made. And in modern day, it's just so much different than it ever was in the past. So much unnatural stuff is in our clothing, and our clothing is made from unnatural materials that didn't even exist just decades back from today's date. So, yeah, okay, we talk about it. Free modifications in clothing, keeping clothing, these three things mainly. Staying centered, okay, fitting correct, where I'll discuss in a minute. Being made from 100% natural materials because our bodies are as well, so our clothing has to, otherwise materials in themselves damage the body as much as physical weight or size imbalances, okay, or discrepancies left to right, front to back. Now, that's how we allow the body to work, is those three things, and that's what In the Image Clothing Company clothing will always be. Any design, that's the intent to be placed there, that will be, because you can only allow the body to work. There's no training of the human being that you can do. It only has its functions. So we just have to learn to the extent that we need to how our bodies work, and then just let them do that. God designed the body to work. Why else would we be given this thing to go across the earth with if it wasn't supposed to work to do that well? We've got our own situations, and that's what it is. But yeah, okay, chronic patterning and scar tissue is what we get out of here under In the Image Clothing Company, because that's what comes up. You know, the body being pulled out of its only neutral positions for years, especially through things like ropes, shoelaces, and drawstrings, and anything else similar will alter the body big time. Okay, so we get into it. Eating, sleeping, standing, walking, sitting, breathing, hydration, all the things that we do, though, no matter what it is, truly as a human being, because there's only one way the body works, and we know how it does here, and we show how to allow it to, okay? There might be more people running by. People are just on a run, probably for like a cross-country team or something for school, maybe. So, yeah, there you go. Now, we have three other sides to us. In the Image Clothing Company podcast, we have deep discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ. As I say, aka the truth of all things. We get into it blunt and bold and raw, real, deep. And we're on episode 154, as of the last one that we filmed. We give a lot of information there that applies to everybody, because we're all human beings. We're all on the same earth. We all have one God. We just discuss him as he says that he is, which we do imperfect, but he does everything perfectly. Okay, so in a lost and fallen world, right, we give information on how to navigate. Now, we have another fourth, In the Image Clothing Company music, and the main thing that I do, really, as far as the allowing the body to work part of things, is show sizings and setups of guitars to not alter the body. Because just like everything in our lives, we have to keep our hands and our wrists in their neutral position, because the hands are essentially the shoulders. As the feet are essentially the hips, we need to keep the whole body activated in its entirety and in its neutrals. Especially when playing guitar, there's a lot of fine little motor skills that go into the movements, and you need your wrist in a neutral location. Otherwise, your whole body will be damaged, okay? But I do a lot of things there, lyricism-wise, metronome madness, where I go off the top with wordplay, things geared around the gospel of Jesus Christ, and I make music in other ways and place it there as well, okay? Now, we have one other fourth, which is In the Image Clothing Company poodles. We specialize in purebred standard poodles. We let dogs stay natural. Basically the same thing as saying allowing the body to work for human beings, but we phrase it different because it's for dogs, okay? We specialize in purebred standard poodles. We breed them and properly register them under the American Kennel Club. We advocate for doing a lot of things with dogs, how to be a good owner of a dog, and the need for registration of dogs, because we'll keep a lot of less dogs in shelters and a lot more dogs at homes, and we do a lot of things with dogs, okay? Here in the state of Utah, the United States of America, where In the Image Clothing Company is based, we have poodle parade events. Meaning, we've got a lot of beautiful nature, and you can bring your poodles, purebred of any size or mixed poodles of any size, come here and we'll hang out in the mountains, around the rivers, at parks, wherever it ends up being, and just do a lot of fun things. Because, you know, In The Image Clothing Company also has dog products. Same thing for human being clothing as the dog products, or vice versa. Keeping collars centered, harnesses, leashes. We teach how to do these things, meaning how to actually hold a leash to not alter your own body, things that are altering your dog's, rehydrating kibble, letting dogs stay natural in a modern man-made world, just like human beings, right? That's In The Image Clothing Company poodles in a nutshell. Okay, so clothing for everybody has to sit in the same location, no matter who you are, okay? Pants need to be entirely above the hips. There's a natural waist between the top of the hip bones and the bottom of the ribs, okay? And with our pants there, then we can move. That's where we actually bend side to side at our spine. And then we need our pant waistline slightly higher in the front. Just to keep our pelvis in a neutral position, the pelvis is the hips, okay? That's how it would be. To keep the core activated, to keep the hamstrings activated, working in conjunction with each other, that's just the neutral position of the hips. And we have tops that we wear. The tops have seams on top of the shoulders that need to sit evenly behind the peak of the shoulders, because our shoulders follow the shoulder seams, and our shoulders only ever work behind our head. That's just mechanically where they connect and how they work. And we'll talk a lot about that in this video with the sternocleidomastoid, because that's really, really huge for the shoulder location. It essentially is the shoulder location, okay? We'll get into that in this pretty deep. And then the edges of our tops just need to be right at the very edges of our shoulders, because that's where the functionality of the joint is. Okay, it's a joint of material as well as a joint of the body. The upper arm bone and then the bones that make up the shoulder from the body, okay? Just a ball and socket joint that just moves, okay? So let's talk about this. The sternocleidomastoid. We have two prerequisites. Oh my heavens. I love how loaded the intros are. In The Image Clothing Company, okay, firstly, when we weave ropes across the top of our feet, there's only one way to, without altering the human body. And that's what we title In The Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique. And then we tie shoes as well as lacing them. You have to tie shoes evenly, over toward the center line of the body on both feet, because there's two sides to the body. And so opposing knots on opposing feet will keep them even. And then secondly, removing all tags from clothing, just because they weren't even there just decades back, and then ever before then. Even the materials that they're most commonly made out of weren't even invented yet. And they're either causing a physical gap, changing the body's only working position, and or just not allowing musculature to activate. And then the body tries to compensate, but it can't, because everything's there to have a role to play. So damage, right? That's where we get that chronic patterning and scar tissue. Okay, so let's get into this. The sternocleidomastoid, the importance of keeping the insertions even. This is the big thing. We've got a lot of free modifications under In The Image Clothing Company, and one of them is no doubt the one that I talk about the most often. Okay, there's a lot of things in clothing that's imbalanced, that no matter what, if you care about it or not, it's still altering your body greatly if you're within the clothing. But the dreaded collar seam is this. Okay, this shirt has it. I wore this shirt specifically for this video, if you will, right? To show the dreaded collar seam is a collar seam. Keeping collars centered is a video that we have under In The Image Clothing Company's main side, but it's just the thing we have to do is, like we talk about with dogs, keeping collars centered on dogs, weight-wise, size-wise, and just fit. Well, our collars have to stay centered. There's just so much musculature, look at this, going up through the neck into the head through the collar of our top. And a seam in the collar will just make the collar imbalanced, okay? The thing with the dreaded collar seam is it's almost always on the left side of clothing. And what that does is place the left side of the body higher than the right side, okay? Takes the collar and places it off to the right side of the body. So now you've got this collar hanging on your left side. This upper trapezius muscle connects to the top and rear of the shoulder, comes in, connects to the spine at the neck, connects up the cervical spine, cervical means neck, and then to the base of the rear of the skull back here. And these muscles, these upper trapezius muscles, they are what cause a shoulder shrug, okay? When you lift your shoulders. And if we've got a seam on the left side, or either side, almost always the left, the dreaded collar seam, it just places that side higher, keeping this left upper trapezius muscle just about always contracted, activated, and then the one on the right side, the upper trapezius, is falling, and it's not able to contract evenly because the collar is pulling on the right side if it's falling off to the right, okay? And it's just lower on the right because the left side just has twice as much material, because what they do to make a dreaded collar seam, that's what we call it under In The Image Clothing Company, is fold the material over itself and then stitch it. So it's twice as thick right there as anywhere else around your neck, okay? So this is the thing about muscles, and there's a video under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company here that talks about this. Muscles only contract, okay? They only get shorter. Every muscle in the body, that's just how it works. And it does that because there's opposing muscles to a bone, okay, or to a function. And we have a video titled Opposing Muscles as well under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company. And so what happens is, if your right upper trapezius muscle is just being stretched because your collar is falling off to the right, because your shoulder seams are imbalanced off to the right, okay, you're just going to have that muscle be constantly pulled on more than the left side, okay? The right upper trapezius is the one that will be. Now, we talk about it like this, right? We live in a right-handed world, and we do. 85%, give or take, of the population of human beings are right-handed. Things that are made to be used with the majority of just one hand will be designed to be used with the right hand. Clothing patterns themselves, like the dreaded collar seam, are essentially right-handed, okay? What they do to the body. So, and we've got shoelaces, and we've got drawstrings, tying knots just to one side. If you're right-handed, you'll tie probably a right-handed knot. Okay, so we get into a right-handed patterning as human beings across the whole earth. Same things happen. The same parts of the body need to be addressed, and that's what we show under In The Image Clothing Company. So, we need to get this right upper trapezius muscle to work, because I'll show this. This is the point. Really, the two main muscles that hold up the head are the upper trapezius, okay, and the sternocleidomastoid. You've got a lot of little muscles up in and under the jaw. You've got muscles throughout the neck, and there's quite a few of them, really, quite a lot of them actually. But the sternocleidomastoid connects in the front, okay? The upper trapezius connects in the rear. And so when we talk about opposing muscles, right, like the bicep here on the arm, when you can pull your arm to your body, or the triceps, 3 of them back here, when you can essentially pull your arm away from your body, because the body doesn't actually push, it's just muscles pulling that causes a hinge to extend, right? The human body actually only ever pulls. But what'll happen is, since one connects in the back, the upper trapezius, and one connects in the front, the sternocleidomastoid, when we're talking about the two main muscles that will stabilize the head, we need our shoulders to be in their only neutral location in order to have those muscles do their roles evenly. Otherwise, you've got an imbalance of either the sternocleidomastoid overworking because your shoulder's too far forward, or your upper trapezius overworking which would be extremely rare to even be able to happen, your shoulders were excessively far back, okay? So we've got this collarbone, right? The clavicle. And the clavicle needs to clear the neck, okay? If you can watch my finger here, I'll put it right along my clavicle. Your clavicle moves forward, it moves back, it moves down, and it moves up, and quite a bit. And what it needs to do is actually clear your neck right here. And in order to do that, we have a neutral, as we say, right? Neutral location for everything because of Earth's gravity. Just what's going to pull straight down as far as a position from Earth's gravity? Well, that's where our shoulders naturally sit, with our arches gripped inward, keeping us centered, those pinky toes pointing straight forward, like our pinky finger is straight neutral from the wrist, okay? Our shoulders will be in a location where there's an evenness from the sternocleidomastoid muscle and the upper trapezius, because one's in the front, one's in the back. They're essentially opposing muscles, okay? So this is what happens, is you'll see people, and as I say, firstly, the shoulders only ever work behind the head. Well, we have to get our collarbones in their proper location in order to have a neutral wrist, in order to have a neutral spine, in order to have a neutral jaw position, in order to keep our core activated and our feet arches activated, because it goes through the whole body. Anything that's imbalanced will affect everything in the body because it's all connected. And so what happens is, if your shoulders, first of all, aren't even, but then second of all, aren't in their only neutral location behind the body, then you'll have more of activation coming from one of the muscles over the other, as far as the sternocleidomastoid or the upper trapezius. And now, this is the big point. The dreaded collar seam, okay, does the same thing as just an oversized top in a right-handed patterning, falling off to the right. Just a collar that's too wide for your neck will fall off to the right, do the same thing, as just the excess material amplifies of the dreaded collar seam on the left, okay? And we've got things all the way down to the feet, right? Like I said, drawstrings. Take your whole hip structure, the pelvis, and change it, okay? There's a video titled The Importance of Even Lat Insertions, the latissimus dorsi muscle, the big one that comes down the back. I talked about the importance of those insertions down at the pelvis crest on the rear because of the right patterning, okay, the right-handed patterning. So this is the big point with traveling down the body, is your shoes will affect your sternocleidomastoid insertions at your skull, behind your ears. Because if your shoes are tied unevenly, now your right shoulder will be forward. If your shoes are both tied to the right, okay, in a right-handed knot. So now in this location, in the right-handed patterning, really just about everything we talk about under In the Image Clothing Company, it's the same patterning throughout the whole body. It's the same right-handedness, more externally rotated on the right side rather than internally rotated, farther away from the body's center line. Okay, so all the musculature is stretched and dropped, okay, on the right side. That's the patterning that goes down through the whole body, and it starts at the feet. Because if the right foot is being tied to the right and it can't grip an arch inward, then your arch will collapse, and now your whole right side of your body is an arch gripped distance lower than your left side, okay, because of a knot at the shoe, okay, if you're not tying shoes evenly over toward the inside. So It's the whole body, and it's zippers, and it's buttons, and it's weight discrepancies, and it's pockets, and yeah, it's stitches in the rear of pants. It's all the things throughout clothing. I mean, we get in depth, we give a lot of free information, yes, but a lot of free modifications as well that you can do in your own clothing that you would never have to purchase in the Image Clothing Company clothing just to allow your body to work. That doesn't make any sense, but it is something you'll never have to modify to allow your body to work, okay? It'll just be good from the factory, always. But here's the thing with the shoulder coming forward then, okay? If the shoulder drops, it'll fall forward because what's holding the shoulder up is muscles like the upper trapezius that connects in the rear of the skull and the spine in the back, okay? And you can see it right here quite easily. And what also is holding the shoulder up and internal is the mid trapezius and the lower trapezius, okay? And there's a lot more muscles as well. But for the sake of explaining it to where you can see what's happening with elevated and internal versus dropped and external, and where it's coming from in the body, shoelaces, drawstrings, top discrepancies at the shoulder seams, at the collar, centeredness at the dreaded collar seam, and then tags throughout clothing will just place you off to the right as well because of where they're placed on the left side. So yeah, let's really get into this. I'm already into it, but I'm just realizing how deep this is. I mean, I know how deep it is, but I'll discuss this pretty thoroughly in this video. So your shoulders will then fall forward if they drop, because the upper trapezius is just such a big muscle compared to the little sternocleidomastoid, and it meaning the upper trapezius works with other muscles, and I'll name some more, right? As well as the mid and lower trapezius, the rhomboids, the rotator cuff muscles that go into the scapula, and even the triceps in a way will keep the shoulders back, actually. Yeah, when that elbow straightens. So there's a lot of muscles in the back of the body that really need to be able to do their work. And if your little sternocleidomastoid muscle that connects in the front is trying to do the work of all those other muscles because your shoulder's not in its only neutral location, then that muscle, the sternocleidomastoid, it will just tense up. So what'll happen is people will feel so much pain. Man, that sun just came out. That's good. That's what I'm saying. But people will feel the pain in their jaw, up radiating through their head, all through here, like into their eye, and in their collarbone area, in their neck, all throughout here. Well, guess what? You don't need to guess if you've been watching this video up until now. The sternocleidomastoid, that's where it travels. You can see the muscle, right, on me right here. It travels from where the pain's getting felt, in the collarbone area right here, up through the neck. Oh man, like on the side of your trachea, in your jaw, in your eye here. You see people do this, like move their jaw around to try to get some relief. You'll see people rubbing their temple, meaning the part right off to the right of their eye. You'll see people, yeah, grabbing their neck like this. Well, guess where your hand is when you're doing this? On that sternocleidomastoid. Exactly, actually. And you just don't know it, right? You see people doing this like, oh man, they're all like, you know, feel all fatigued and in pain, and their hands like right here. Look where my hand is. That's what it is, because in this position, look where my shoulder is, and look at the neutral location of my shoulder. It's actually back here, not here, okay? Yeah, it's crazy. This is what I mean. In the Image Clothing Company, we show the actual truth of the reasons why we get into these patternings as people, and how to get out of these patternings as people. Because if you've got your collar just hanging on one side of your neck, then that's just pulling your body off to the other side. So the collar will be sitting on the left side of the neck, and your body will be pulled over to the right. And what that does is have the left side reinforced, trying to keep you centered, when the right side's just so pulled on. The right side of the body is just pulled on all the time within imbalanced clothing. And so, yeah, we get what's called bone spurs, okay? Bone spurs are when a bone is being pulled on by a muscle because it's not allowed to be in its only neutral location, and it'll just be putting excess strain and stress on the insertion, right? Like this video is about the insertion of the sternocleidomastoid. It's just one end of the muscle where it connects to the bone. And then there's the other end, and it connects to bone, and then it pulls together, okay? And yeah, if it's not in its only neutral location, the insertion will just be being pulled on excessively, and the bone will actually just grow, okay? You'll see this in people's elbows. You'll see it in people's, wow, we can talk about a lot of things. I'll word it like this. We have videos under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company titled Things on the Right Side of the Body, like these. Dorsiflexion of the right foot, okay, where I talk about the shin bone on the right lower leg, and it gets scar tissue built up. The pinky finger affects the entire body, and it does, because there's a neutral at the pinky, okay, for the wrist. And then the forearm, okay, just patterning in the forearm, all the scar tissue that gets built up on the outside of this forearm. We have videos titled Internal Rotation of the Forearm. We have videos titled The Forearm and the Lower Leg, because they're essentially the same thing mechanic-wise, functionality-wise, right? The mechanics of them. We have a video titled The Right Elbow, because there's scar tissue that gets built up in the right elbow, like I was just showing, with just the body being out of its only neutral position, like the right shoulder being dropped, okay? The triceps that connect from the elbow up to the shoulder will just pull on the elbow excessively if the shoulder's dropped, and then the forearm to the wrist to the pinky is all out of its only neutral position, right? And you just get scar tissue in the elbow. And notice what all this stuff on the right side of the body is doing to the length of the sternocleidomastoid muscle when the right side gets lower, farther away from the center, and more external, okay? The right-handed patterning, the things that all these things in clothing cause, right? So, yeah, like keeping short sleeves short. A video under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company, if our short sleeves aren't short enough to where we can actually flex at our elbow, then that will drop, right, the shoulder, okay? Because you'll just hit into the sleeve, and you'll have to get around the sleeve, and the only way you can do that is lowering your arm. It'll just deactivate your muscles, and that'll happen, okay? The body will just do that by itself. There's just something in its way. So how long sleeves affect body mechanics, right, is they affect it a lot. We have a video titled How Sleeve Cuffs Affect Body Mechanics. So short sleeves, yeah, that's a cuff. But then long sleeves, your hand needs to be free-flowing to have your neutral wrist. Otherwise, your shoulder's damaged and your sternocleidomastoid is being pulled on, and then you've got pain in your jaw and your neck and your upper chest here by your collarbone, up into the top of your head, and in your ear, in your eye, right? Even into your teeth on the right side. Man, I mean, people feel pain, and I know it because, as I've said, I've never been through more physical pain in my life than I have getting out of these patternings as the founder of In the Image Clothing Company and learning what's causing them and how to actually fix it, the real truth behind all of this. So yeah, it's not fun. It hurts a lot. But what you can do is take your fingers, keep your shoulders even, keep your hips even, keep your feet even. Okay? Put your fingers right behind your ears on the sternocleidomastoid insertion up at the base of the skull back here, right behind the lower jaw. Okay? And right behind the ear. And just feel, and you can look in a mirror so you can tell that, you know, your elbows are at even heights, your shoulders, and then the rest of your body traveling down. Do all that you can within patterning, right, to stay centered while you're looking at this, and see, feeling the bottom of where the muscle comes up and actually meets the bone, see if it's even, okay? Because almost guaranteed for almost every human across the whole earth, the right side here will be lower. And look where you are here. You're just in the patterning that all these things cause, okay? So, yeah, the slipped lap knot under In the Image Clothing Company, right? When we talk about how drawstrings affect body mechanics, that's the knot that I showed to keep the drawstring or a knot of a rope around your waist entirely horizontal, because our pelvis has to be even, okay, the hips. And yeah, that's a lot of what I talked about in the video titled The Importance of Even Lat Insertions, is drawstrings, because that's directly on the lat insertion. It's directly like right next to and actually physically against the hips, okay? So yeah, our ears. When I was saying at the beginning how we have things in modern day that just never could have affected the human being, we have things we place in our ears, okay, to listen to music with, small little things. Well, all your ear is the gap between the rear of the lower jawbone and your, I used to word it as the base of the skull, but in all reality, it's the sternocleidomastoid insertion more than just the base of the skull. It's exactly where that sternocleidomastoid comes up and inserts. That's exactly behind the ear. And if you place anything in your ear, you just alter the gap between the lower jaw bone and the sternocleidomastoid insertion at the skull. And now you just make that shoulder come forward, because your jaw, which stabilizes your entire body, gets moved out of its only neutral position. And talk about the pain traveling and radiating up into your head. The lower jaw muscles come up all the way to the crown of the head up here. There's a video here under the main site of In the Image Clothing Company titled The Mechanics of the Human Jaw. The importance of the corners of the mouth. There's another video under the main site of In the Image Clothing Company. And so we talk about the jaw's need to stay centered. Okay, workouts don't help the jaw, right? Because if your teeth don't mesh centered enough, not that you have to have a perfect looking smile, but the teeth, as just physical things that can't move, need to stay centered above your body's center line and the center of gravity's pull on your body for your jaw to be able to stabilize your entire body. Okay, so you place something in your ear and alter your jaw. If it's placed in your right ear, it'll pull your right shoulder forward, okay? Now, the emphasis is being placed on that sternocleidomastoid muscle, and it'll just develop a bone spur. It'll just be altered because it's being physically pushed out of the way, in a sense. Man, okay? So, we talk about eating and drinking with the left hand. Look at this. Watch this sternocleidomastoid muscle. I'll put my index finger on it, okay? If I grab something with my left hand to drink, okay, my body can stay neutral. If you're always only, well, or eat, okay, first off, as well as drinking, but then eating, if you're always only doing that with your right side, okay, you are just reinforcing the right shoulder coming forward, that sternocleidomastoid doing more work because it's in front of the body than the upper trapezius that's behind the body, okay? Like this. You use your left hand to eat or drink, your right shoulder essentially will go back, right? Just to compensate. Like the neutrals of the body, things will always just stay neutral if they're allowed to. So your thumbs, for example, bringing something up to drink with your left hand, your left thumb will kind of externally rotate, and your right thumb would essentially internally rotate, okay? And so the body just will stay centered where and if it can, and it just would if nothing was altering it, placed physically on it, clothing. So, yeah, okay. We need to be able to eat with our left hand and drink with our left hand. We need to be able to get the teeth to mesh more centered, because if the jaw is off to the right, well, the shoulder muscles will just be extended off to the right as well, like the upper trapezius, like the sternocleidomastoid. They'll just be pulled off to the right more because that's just where the jaw will be stabilizing if the teeth are meshing off to the right, okay? Just over gravity, that's just how it'll be. And so that's the big thing when I say it's not only about keeping the musculature centered in one aspect, but it's about everything. It's about things like this, eating and drinking, where we don't really think about that usually, at least most people, when it comes to the mechanics of the body, you know, taking a drink of something. But it's everything, you know. I talk about the importance of blowing the nose centered, right? How blowing the nose affects body mechanics. The nose is in the center, and in the center of the nose, there's a septum, which is that piece right in the center that divides the two nostrils, which are just holes or openings for air to get into our lungs. And if you have what's called a deviated or just off-balanced septum in the nose, then every breath you take will come more through one nostril than the other. And it'll be your right if your nose is deviated or moved off to the right, because it's just going to be a bigger opening for air to come in. So now your body's falling off to the right and forward like this, because the majority of the muscles that hold the body up are in the rear of it. And so if they're not allowed to work because they connect to the center at the spine, and something like a deviated septum is pulling your body off to one side, then your body will just fall forward on the right side, okay? And then there you go. The nose now plays into a bone spur at the sternocleidomastoid, okay? Insertion up at the head, behind the ear. So there's a lot going into this, and that's why this video is what it is, right? The importance of even sternocleidomastoid insertions. So, okay. Yeah, like look at this. This insertion on the right up here, let's say, comes down, I'm more external and dropped. If it comes up, I'm more internal and elevated, okay? So the ears themselves will get altered. You can look at this, people across the whole earth, and yourself probably, maybe, okay, probably, I was like this. The right ear will just be so much lower than the left, just bigger, longer, falling down. And yeah, if you're placing something inside of it, that'll just be pulling physically down on it. But also just gravity, right? Just your shoulder being lower on the right will just be pulling down on the skin even that just goes up into your ear. And like I'm saying, just that sternocleidomastoid moving will just alter the whole ear's shape and structure, and it'll just be longer. Okay, you see this, the older people get, the bigger or really lower is what it really is, their ears get. And that's just because over time, if their bodies are getting deeper into patterning and they're just falling, right? People shorten with age, they get shorter. This is what's going on. Yeah, that's crazy, right? This is the truth. This is what I mean. This is In The Image Clothing Company. This is really what we do. It's only about clothing to allow the human body to work. Okay? This is amazing. So, yeah. Anyway, that's probably where we cut this. That's crazy. Okay. Anyway, the point being, though, yeah, get the insertions to be as even as you can. If you can just, work out with your fingers gently, where the musculature meets the bone, right? Just like on the pinky, just like on the elbow, just like on the forearm, just like on the lower right leg, on that shin bone, just like on the crest of the pelvis where that latissimus dorsi or dorsi muscle comes down and inserts, right? And just all the locations in the body where we've got scar tissue, it just can't be there, right? Scar tissue is just tissue that's becomes like excessively stiff and gristly because it's not allowed to be in its only neutral location. It's not allowed to have its normal ranges of motion, and it's just holding on tight and binding up to try to work in a position it just never could work in. So there you go. Okay, the ears need to be even heights at the base of them. The insertions of the sternocleidomastoid need to be even, right? The right side will just bump out a lot, not only be lower, but it's just being pulled off too to the right. And you can see it on the back of people's heads when you look at them. Usually people with short hair is where you'll be looking. It's harder to see people's physical skull through long hair, but you can feel it. And if you can see it, then okay. But yeah, there you go. Okay. And there's more things, anything that does and will play into this. Think of a tag in the rear of the collar of a shirt or a top of any kind. And then if the collar goes off-centered, that tag will follow off-centered to the right. And now you've got this material of the tag placed right on your upper trapezius muscle on the right. And it's just inhibited. And then the sternocleidomastoid's trying to make up for the work. Okay, it's crazy. This is the actual truth of the problems in human beings and why it's happening. Okay, so today's the 15th of August, 2025. That's an aeroplane. Yeah, same thing for dogs, right? Collars on dogs imbalanced for years. They've got musculature that's supporting their body, and their jaw supports and stabilizes their whole body like human beings. Dogs have the same things we do that I mentioned as the center line. The sternum, the spine, the trachea, the nose, and yes, their jaw does stabilize their entire body, going directly into their neck with a collar placed on it. Okay, dog collars, keeping them centered. In the Image Clothing Company dog products, InTheImageClothingCompany.com. Check it out, okay? But it's as real as it gets, okay? So if you can't tell, I just have immense gratitude for being able to explain all this to the degree that I can. And we're here for life, at least the life of me, the founder of In The Image Clothing Company, Evan Strong. So we're only going to understand these things deeper as time goes. The team will build, and thank you.